July 16, 2:30 p.m. PT, partial lunar eclipse at 24 degrees of Capricorn. The partial lunar eclipse in Capricorn on July 16 casts its shadow over our lives and psyches, helping us purge what has invaded our systems and clarify any of the more unhelpful emotional patterns we have let steer our ways of working. In stark contrast to the more flawless personas we create, our less likable personality traits get a chance to make themselves known now. During eclipses, we are often asked to integrate or witness what we usually reject. This exercise is not merely a practice in making ourselves feel better, however. Each of us contains information about the whole. As we encounter, confront, and hopefully heal more aspects of self, we get to understand the nature of the ailments that threaten all. We are never healing in a silo. While the astronomy of an eclipse happens in a couple of hours, the astrology of it happens slowly over time. Important events tend to constellate around eclipses, but their meaning unfolds over the months and years in which they take place. Because it is the second of 4 eclipses in Capricorn, we know that, barely, half this story has been told. This full moon and lunar eclipse is directly connected to the new moon and solar eclipse that occurred on January 5, 2019. What happens now is the result of what we seeded back then. This eclipse, like all of the ones in Capricorn from January 2019 July 2020, sits with the South Node, an astrological point of emptying out, release, and sometimes removal. This eclipse sits in very close conjunction to Pluto, another astrological force known for its ability to peel back the layers of our material life. The South Node and Pluto together offer up a fairly abrasive cleanse, but they will help us get clear on what must be offered up, healed, or held in a spiritual context. During lunar eclipses, we may tend to want to hide out, sleep in, let the body rest and do what it needs to. We can aid this process by actively cleaning, cleansing, and going through a gentle and safe purification process. A little journaling can go a long way in sorting through emotions that have become stuck or stifled. A little ritual that you find therapeutic can help you to digest whatever has been clogging your system. Spending a moment just witnessing what is coming into your life and how you are responding to it can shift your experience completely.
On the same day as the lunar eclipse, Venus in Cancer opposes Saturn in Capricorn, driving home the message of work, responsibility, and boundaries. A full moon in Capricorn already tends toward the austere, with little regard for luxury, affection, and enjoyment, so Venus's opposition to Saturn feels a little like adding insult to injury. However, it clarifies for us that our duty to ourselves is to understand, uphold, and take care of our boundaries. With this astrology, just make sure you aren't turning off the taps of your self-love streams. July 18th. Venus in Cancer trine Neptune RX in Pisces, both at 18 degrees. The most romantic of all aspects, Venus trine Neptune attunes us to all the feel-good vibes missing from this week's lunar eclipse. This is a healing balm not to be underestimated. Let a little love seep into your system. Let a little kindness fall out of your pockets. Let a little beauty pour forth in whatever way it wants to. July 19th. Mercury RX enters Cancer where it will remain until August 11, 2019. Traveling back into Luna's waters, Mercury will put the finishing touches on Cancer season. Melancholy like no other, Mercury's backward gaze is longing and yearning for solace. The good news is that the worst of the astrology for this Mercury retrograde is over. Soon to meet up with Venus, Mercury will find the love notes it needs to read. July 21st. Venus in Cancer opposes Pluto RX in Capricorn, both at 21 degrees. It's a tough week for hard-to-resolve relationship issues. We can't outsmart astrology like this though, we can only go underground with it. Because Venus opposed Saturn during Tuesday's lunar eclipse, today's opposition to Pluto doesn't surprise, but it does deepen our understanding of what has already been made obvious. When Venus meets Pluto, what gets exaggerated is our tendency to obsess over what others do or do not do, projecting our hopes, fears, longings, and desires onto those around us is common with this setup. Perhaps nothing is as painful as being unconsciously enmeshed in our projections. They trick us into thinking that somewhere out there is our happiness, success, or well-being, when really it's only ever in our relationship to our own lives that we find fulfillment. Today's astrology will tend to unearth the unconscious envy we carry, revealing feelings that, left to fester, can turn poisonous. Clean out your wounds. Sun conjunct Mercury RX in Cancer at 28 degrees. This aspect further brings an issue into focus. As Mercury enters the heart of the Sun, we get clarity about what was formerly hidden or obscured. We may also feel this transit as a shot of mental adrenaline, fueling a frenzy of wild ideas and interesting insights. July 22nd. Sun enters Leo, where it will remain until August 23, 2019. Welcome, Leo season. Some of the best astrology of 2019 unfolds under Leo's landscape, helping us dry out from July's eclipses and the emotional upheaval they may have brought. It's not a season without its twists and turns, but everything ends up a little more blessed than it began. The upcoming astrology feels especially celebratory, bright, and illuminating given the shadowlands we have recently traveled through. July 24th. Mercury RX conjunct Venus at 26 degrees Cancer. A week before Mercury stations direct, it makes some time to tango with Venus. Currently ruled by the Moon, these two teach us about connecting to our intuition. Our communication styles, needs, and tendencies get uplifted, and whatever miscommunications are made worse by the beginning of Mercury's retrograde and soothed somewhat by this combination. July 25th. Mars in Leo trine Jupiter RX in Sagittarius, both at 14 degrees. The warrior and the optimist team up today to help us conquer any fears of scarcity. When the goal is equality, there's room for everyone to win. When it's a singular sail to the top, only one can. Think of ways in which success can be communal, wealth can be shared, and abundance can be made more so from being widespread. July 27th. Venus enters Leo, where it will remain until August 21, 2019. Here, Venus is both ruled by and traveling close to the Sun, making its annual conjunction to it soon enough. In Leo, Venus's love languages are grand gestures and gilded gifts galore. The queen that appreciates praise, Venus in Leo reminds us that pleasure and love are to be lived out on the great stage of life. July 29th. Sun in Leo square Uranus and Taurus, both at 6 degrees. This lunar cycle ends with a few fireworks that both disturb the peace and stir the senses. The Sun in Leo is strongly placed and no pushover, so while the friction of this day is formidable, it asks us all to be a little more honest and forthright in regards to our self-expression. In some ways derailing, this astrology will shake out the truth and interrupt anything that gets in the way of it. Earth signs: Capricorn and Capricorn Rising. July's lunar eclipse is all you. In Capricorn, this full moon helps you hone in on your milestones. What major markers of achievement have you experienced lately? What did you set out to do at the beginning of the year that you can now say you gave your best effort to or finished outright? What part of your reputation have you been willing to risk in order to live more sincerely centered in your power? Eclipses like these ask for a little sacrifice. The ego is always a good place to start. Being of service strips us of, at least some, self-importance. Being willing to lay down our defenses in order to remember the power of vulnerability is a ritual with incredible benefits. Being more interested in getting clear about what you want, instead of tiring to pretend you are above wanting it, brings the kind of clarity that creates the experience with great speed. It also helps you understand what you no longer need to try and be, chase, or pretend to like. If anything, this eclipse is asking you to be brutally honest with yourself. You deserve at least that much. Taurus and Taurus Rising. July's lunar eclipse comments on your long-term plans. It's giving you one major homework assignment: radically trust what is and isn't working out. Bearing in mind your responsibilities, bills, and what you can't slack on, go where the energy is. If a certain direction seems like where you should logically go next but gives you no positive feedback, reconsider if it's the right way for you. Follow your intuition. Appreciate what is leaving as making way for what is far more aligned with your present and future progress. Make your spiritual well-being a priority by centering your life around what you know promotes it. From that place, you'll have a far better understanding of which securities it's time to risk and which need to stay intact. Come Leo season, many exciting career changes are underway. Keep aligning yourself with what keeps you feeling generous and generative, and the shifts will follow suit. Virgo and Virgo rising. The more playful you can be with your creative process, the deeper it will take you. The more willing you are to be changed by it, the more empowered you'll feel in it. The more you become a vessel for its energy, the more it will pour into you. July's lunar eclipse highlights the projects you have been developing since January. It teaches you how to be dedicated yet unattached to the outcome. It's a process that will render you vulnerable to your more tender feelings, but it will also strengthen your system by understanding the power of letting them move through you. What we spend energy resisting costs us creatively. Take note of any negative thoughts you have about your ability to make something from scratch. Any shame that comes up in regards to your creations is natural, but not a guest you want to welcome for long. Get the necessary information from it and then send it on its way. If this lunation brings burnout, be extra kind to your system. Refill and refuel often. You are not a machine. You do not need to create like one either. Air signs. Gemini and Gemini rising. July's lunar eclipse reflects the many ways in which you've spent the last 6 months healing old grief, sorting through the fears that have held you hostage, and working your way through money issues and resource restructurings. This lunation brings reward if you are fully committed to no longer leaking resources from your energetic and economic systems. You don't have to know how to do this yet, but making it part of your long-term intention will draw to you all the lessons you need to learn. What would it mean for you to mindfully direct your resources in the ways in which you collaborate with others? This series of eclipses wants to help you gain clarity on the ways in which you might overdo your efforts due to feelings of being personally underdeveloped. Working hard to build upon your skills is essential to doing a good job, but overextending yourself financially or energetically won't get you the respect you desire or deserve. With this full moon, let yourself imagine saying no to what overextends you and yes to what has you overflowing with good feeling. Libra and Libra rising. July highlights the bigger career shifts that you are making, adjusting to, and seeking out, but the lunar eclipse goes below the surface of all of that worldly work. The second of two eclipses, Tuesday's pulls focus on all the feelings that lay at the base of your life. Your foundations, your home, and your inner life are asking to be tended to. Tenderizing you is part of this eclipse's plan, so try not to judge or shame yourself for what you need to release. The emotional reactions that swell around eclipses might seem irrational at first glance, but upon reflection, they are often right on the mark. Because eclipses unearth what has been repressed, they can feel shocking, like opening up a cupboard only to realize the cat was locked in it. What is desperate for release jumps out. The good news is that paying affectionate attention to what is vying for yours will swiftly shift the situation from overwhelming to understandable. Aquarius and Aquarius rising. Eclipse season reminds you that life isn't about getting what you want. That happens sometimes, and it's really cute when it does, but the thrill of it quickly fades. Eclipse season reminds you that life gets really good when you show up for it and ask what you can give to it. July's lunar eclipse occurs in a part of your chart that speaks to your hidden life, what you do behind the scenes and all of the maintenance that goes into helping yourself heal from the challenges of the past. This eclipse cautions you against looking at your bank balances or career accomplishments for evidence of your worth. Instead, attune yourself to the incredible efforts you've made to heal, especially over the past 6 months. Clearing even a little internal space for yourself creates miles of room for your creativity to find its wings. Eclipse season reminds you that what you are able to work on behind the scenes determines the quality of what the world will eventually receive. Protecting those inner sanctuaries is incredibly important for your creative and personal process, something you will come to see the value of over the next year especially. Water signs. Cancer and Cancer Rising. July's lunar eclipse helps you get to the solutions and strategies that will set you free. This eclipse teaches you how to set boundaries with others and maintain them, reminding you that it is your job to get as clear as can be on what you need, what you can do, and what you most hope and wish to come true. Working backward from those facts will help you set your life up in ways that free you from the expectation that others can make you happy. Eclipse season has most likely outlined the ways in which you fear rejection, exclusion, or failing at being whatever it is you thought you needed to be. That fear, however, can only be cured by making it a reality. Fail at living up to the warped expectations your mind invented from watching too much TV. Fail at being a version of yourself that isn't yours to be. Fail at being what others wanted for you or from you, and instead meditate on what you want to be for yourself. When you do, you get the glorious experience of succeeding at what is most important in life, being flawed, interesting, and uniquely you. Untethered from society's sterilized misconceptions of what is lovable, likable, or deserving of connection, give yourself the gift of self-recognition. Pisces and Pisces Rising. More than anything, we need to build a life that feels meaningful to us. We need to know we are needed. We need to cultivate connections to the people and the places we feel refueled by. We need to serve our lives in ways that bring out the best in us. July's lunar eclipse highlights the communities that you are a part of. It pulls focus on the lessons you've learned within them recently. It recalls the friendships you began to build 6 months ago, and what you have been building within them since January. Take a look back and notice what stands out for you in this area of life. This eclipse reminds you of how important it is to find connections that are soulful, deeply nourishing, and grounding in their essence. It comments on the necessary work of serving such connections by creating a space for them, checking up on them, and tending to the emotional issues that are bound to come up within them. Scorpio and Scorpio Rising. July's lunar eclipse brings an important writing project to completion, a communication issue to light, or an important trip into focus. Far from free of complications, however, any accomplishment this moon sheds light on will have been hard-won. If you look back to the beginning of 2019, what did you set out to do, especially in regards to writing, teaching, learning, and communicating, that is now having a moment of recognition or in a critical stage of growth? What conversations began back then that are now finding their way into more concrete reality? What are you talking about with others that feels fulfilling, challenging, or emotionally evocative? This eclipse highlights the many exchanges of information that you are involved in, whether that is local or long distance. The mark you make on others right now leaves a long-lasting impression. Spend a little time in the mornings meditating on what you most wish that to be, so you can return to the intention throughout the day when you get off track. Fire signs. Leo and Leo Rising. Although there is much to celebrate with the arrival of Leo season, July's lunar eclipse comes with workloads to be reckoned with. It's fleeting, but what you do with this particular moment matters. If you look back to the beginning of 2019, what were you beginning as a work project or professional relationship that is now coming to an important stage of its growth? What have you learned and what are you now able to implement successfully? The commitments you have made in your work life bring you into situations where opportunity and scrutiny come together. You may feel pressure to get it right. While doing your homework is especially important right now, so too is showing up open and willing to make the most of the moment. Your spontaneity is as much a skill as your ability to track data and details. Find the professional spaces that can encourage equal amounts of both. You'll always need to find ways to play. Please don't ever think you have to put that away in order to be successful or serious about what you do. Aries and Aries Rising. July's lunar eclipse highlights the clarity you've managed to get in your professional life. What has left your desk is for the best. What has left you feeling lackluster is information to pay attention to. Whatever shifts you know you need to make must be attended to. This eclipse is far from the end of the story, but it's a very important chapter in your professional tale. Look back to see if it relates at all to what you began to notice back in January of this year. Whatever is culminating in your public or professional life now is right on time. Don't doubt the message. Doubt only your resistance to fully receiving it. Once you've got clarity, you have also got a choice. Sagittarius and Sagittarius Rising. July's lunar eclipse calls upon your need to know your own worth. It asks you to purge yourself of the doubts that others have projected onto you. It encourages you to keep clarifying your relationship to your resources. The more you appreciate what it is you have to build with, and what is possible to build with it, the better able you are to cut to the chase and get to it. Doubt is helpful for a hot second when it points out a problem we need to address, but once it has oriented you to the solution, find ways to escape its clutches. This eclipse stretches out across the landscape of what you have to offer and what others either offer you or keep to themselves. You need partners that are not only poised to support the future potential of your projects but also see the integrity, efficiency, and genius at the core of them. The more you focus on developing what is so unique and needed about your point of view, style, or solution, the more you'll be aligning yourself with those that seek the same. Focus on what is working in your relationships with money, assets, and resources, and put down what feels overly taxing or sidetracking right now. It's expected to force you to get serious about what really makes you happy in life. The astrological event will affect Capricorn and Cancer the most, followed by Libra and Aries. Quick astronomy refresher: this full moon is pretty powerful, forcing you to get serious about what will actually bring you happiness in life. It has a very serious vibe with it because Saturn, the planet of being responsible and fixing things, has its thumbprint all over this chart. Plus, since the Sun is in Cancer, which focuses on personal life and emotions, and the Moon is in Capricorn, which is all about career, you'll also do some more thinking about your work-life balance. Page adds: is one overshadowing the other? If so, it's time to make a change ASAP. Speaking of work-life balance, here's the best job for your zodiac sign. One more thing, the full moon is going to be big on making you let go of things you think you're supposed to do that really don't line up with what you want anymore. How will the full moon and partial lunar eclipse impact the rest of my year? Those deep thoughts you're having could lead to some pretty big changes, because maybe you'll decide your job is sucking the life out of you, and you need to make a change for your mental well-being. The changes you make now could make some serious waves that'll impact you over the next few weeks, months, and, not to be totally dramatic here, but possibly the rest of your life. No pressure, though. Like, share, comment and subscribe. Starlight.